This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is the Fast Break Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, as always, is Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
And Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
And today we are going to be talking about Russell Westbrook, what to expect from the Houston Rockets point guard, now the Houston Rockets point guard. Then we're going to be jumping into two younger guys, high draft picks that have a ton of potential but have not been able to prove their full worth yet, and if they will hit those limits. Everybody's favorites, Michael Porter Jr. and Markelle Fultz. We'll talk about their potential and if they'll be able to hit their ceilings this year. We're excited for you to join the conversation. If you do want to join the conversation every single week, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You won't miss any of our videos and podcast segments on there. And you could also check us out on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, or Stitcher as well, or any of the podcasting services outside of Spotify. Ricky and I talked about that on the Superfans. But you can check us out on all the other ones and listen to our podcast there. We already introduced ourselves, right? You're Ricky Widmer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we said that.
Yeah,
And you're Dave Oster.
We've been through this
Just
one.
making sure.
Yep.
Anyways, I have extreme short-term memory loss.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I even remember Russell Westbrook was on the Houston Rockets. Also, check out patreon.com/podcast if you want to support us and help us out. You can do so at patreon.com/podcast. But let's jump in, guys. We're going to be talking about the expectations for Russell Westbrook in Houston. This kind of came up because Zach Lowe wrote an article. He said the 6 most intriguing players this year to watch in the NBA. One was Russell Westbrook, one was Markelle Fultz, and the other was Michael Porter Jr. So I kind of got inspiration from that, but I'm also intrigued from him for selfish reasons too, because in my fantasy league that is outside of this, is kind of a work one. Mm-hmm. I have my 2 keepers are Kawhi and Luka, and the draft order is based on the keepers that you have. So I have the 3rd pick, right? And the first guy is going to go with Zion. Yeah. Second guy is going to go with Paul George, I think. So I'm either just debating between Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal, right? So you see Russell Westbrook, 3 straight years, triple-double, that's always going to help categories out, right?
Yep.
But the biggest concern you always have for him is the efficiency. And Bradley Beal going to have a massively high usage and is most likely going to be near 7 assists, so maybe he's going to be able to bridge that gap with his efficiency. So I want to talk about a little bit is, what can we expect from Russell Westbrook? Because we know the triple-doubles have been happening in OKC, but can we expect that from him in Houston? Then Dave, you talked about this with your hot takes, that you think he's going to be more open to shoot a little bit, and you think that his percentages can rebound. And you think that your hot take, I think, was that he's going to shoot above league average from three-point percent. So I want to dive into this a little bit, because not only does this have NBA relevancy, because if he is doing that and he is more efficient, this is going to be a very deadly team. But outside of that too, some guys are going to be looking at this as, fantasy aspects as well, because this is a guy that has been able to be dominant throughout points, rebounds, and assist categories, but he hasn't really been efficient throughout those 3 years. So let's dive into Russell Westbrook and what do we expect from him in a Houston Rockets jersey?
I think the biggest expectation out of the gates for him is, or I should say the biggest question is he going to have another triple-double? I don't think so. I think that law of averages is bound to break at some point for him. I mean, they're going to get plenty of touches all the way around, but as a system, OKC was set up to feed rebounds to start their breaks faster, and I don't see Clint Capella being that box-out kind of guy for Russell Westbrook. I think they're going to spread the ball around a little bit more on that front. So triple-double, no, for fantasy fans out there, I'm sorry. But offensively, I think absolutely look for Russell Westbrook to rebound shooting percentages this year. He's going to get plenty of looks because that team definitely needs scores on it. The scoring load from Chris Paul in the last 2 years, he was just under 19 points a game his first year in Houston, and then he was just over 15 points in his second year in Houston. And I don't know why that was so hard for me to say. I'm literally looking at the numbers, and it's just like, struggle, Dave.
Making connections is hard.
It really is sometimes.
That's why you got to use LinkedIn.
Nice plug.
Thanks. I don't know. I'm not sponsored by fucking LinkedIn.
But no, so I expect him to be about the same as far as his scoring is going to go all the way back to the expect him somewhere in the mid-20s. It's not going to be a 30-point year. I don't think James Harden's going to have a 36-point year again. I think expect Russell Westbrook to be somewhere around maybe 24, 8 assists and 6 rebounds.
24 is a lot.
Yeah, but who else is going to score on that team?
I mean, you have Eric Gordon, you have Capella, you have James Harden. I mean, James Harden did just put up 36. He won't again, but I still think he's going to put up more points than Russ, right? Capello is usually around 12 to 15. Eric Gordon's usually around 15 to 10. So, and PJ Tucker probably puts in about 8. So, I mean, do we expect this to be a high-flying Houston Rockets offense like we've seen in the past?
I mean, the only thing I disagree with Dave is the assist numbers to me, because the thing I'm looking back is basically the last 3 years in OKC. I kind of throw those out the window because I kind of also see those as the Russell Westbrook, like, fuck you to Kevin Durant kind of numbers, where it's like, oh, if you're going to leave me, you're going to blame me, say I'm the reason why you left. Screw it. I'm just going to put the team on my back. And that's why we saw the triple doubles and everything. The only thing I'm unsure about is his attempts per game. And I'm talking about field goals in general, because those years kind of fluctuated. The ones with Durant, it was sometimes he was averaging 18 shots a game. So the year before he was averaging 22 shots a game. That was when he had his career high with Kevin Durant when them leading that Thunder team. But he's not going to be the same as Chris Paul, where Chris Paul was averaging, 12, 13 shot attempts a game, and I know he played less games due to injury than Russ did in those OKC days. My big question is, how is he going to fit with James Harden in this offense? And is it going to benefit him, or is it going to be a little bit of a clash between him and James, at least to start the year, when we see them in the regular season before they get their footing a couple games in?
Yeah, I mean, a big thing with Russ is, while he has been putting up a ton of, assist numbers and has been able to get over that 10% or not 10%, but the 10 a game average. He has been able to also have a great amount of assist percentage, and him and Harden are typically near the top. JJ Barea led the league last year with 45.4, but then Russ came in with 44.0%, and then Harden came in with 39.4%. So, I mean, they're able to, on every single possession, or nearly every single possession, every single time they're passing, they're able to rack up assists. And I don't think assists is a big thing with him. Like, he's usually putting guys in spots to make easy layups. And that's something that he is able to do. He's able to create offense for guys.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's a great passer. Like, I don't think he's, like this stylish, crazy great passer like Chris Paul's been back in the day, or John Stockton or whatever, or Magic. But he is a very efficient player when it comes to passing the basketball. So I really do think that he's going to be able to keep that up. And I think we probably will see his turnovers go down a little bit, just because this is more of a wide open offense, and they're not going to be limited to the space in between, shooters and everything like that. We're going to see a little bit more spread out of an offense. You have PJ Tucker out there. You have Gerald Green still available. You have Eric Gordon. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw those three guards play together, Gordon, Harden, and Russell. So I do think that, and Harden's a great shooter as well. So I do think that Russ is going to be a guy that still efficiency going to the basket and the assist going to the basket as well, and even passes to guys that are open. So even if he's not getting first assist, but like tertiary assist as well.
Hockey assist.
Hockey assist, where he dishes out to Gordon, and then Gordon hits Harden at the top of the key or whatever, passing the open guy. I do think that he's going to be still very involved with that. I just don't know if he's going to be able to do that when Harden takes that role. When Harden's able to step up and Harden's able to, run the pick and roll with Clint Capella, or he's going ISO, and then he dishes out, and then that hockey assist goes right to Russ, and Russ is open. I still don't know if he's going to be able to hit those shots, and if he's still going to be willing to take it, because if he does have a guy on him, or there is a little bit of an opening, Russ still might want to try to go in and attack the lane. So I think that Russ isn't going to change much. I do still think that they're going to put him in what he's comfortable with, and I think that's mainly pick and roll. And they do still have a very great roll man in Clint Capella,
the best.
So I do think that that's going to be the main style of offense, and I don't think we're going to see him really adapt like Chris Paul did to at least the Houston offense. But I do think that D'Antoni realizes what he has and will at least put him in spots to benefit himself. I am worried to say that he'll have a better year, but I think that he might have a more efficient year.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he'll have the similar points that he had. I think he was at 20 this year, where Paul George was at like 28. I don't know if he's going to be able to...
22.9 to end the 18-19 season.
All right, cool. So 22.9.
Yep.
I think that that's probably a safe spot for him. I don't think 24 is attainable for him, just because I do think that James Harden's going to still put up over 30 points per game. And I think that this offense is better than what we saw in OKC. OKC obviously had the greater defensive team.
Yeah.
But I don't think that the shots are going to be there for him. I could see more of an increase in those assists, though, just because there are guys from the outside that can hit, and Clint Capella is so good going to the bucket. I think that we're going to see more assists from him, maybe that 12 to 13 range.
Whoa, okay.
Where we'll see more scoring from James Harden and less scoring from Russ. The efficiency is still up in the air, though. I don't know where he's going to end up.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's hard to predict because I think you brought up an interesting point of what happens for the possessions where James Harden is the lead ball handler. And I want to say that Russ playing off ball in OKC was really, really a struggle. And I know quality of players around him has varied pretty widely over time, but you watched him off ball and guys can easily sag off of him. He's not a threat to, drop threes because he's shooting like 29% from three. So you have somebody who effectively, yes, in motion, he might be able to, peel something off and, take a stab at the lane, try to be a good slasher off ball. But I don't see him taking those catch and shoot threes for Russell Westbrook. No, it's usually like the clock's been winding down and here's the ball with 4 seconds left, Russ. Good luck. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to see how that's going to work out with James Harden when he's primary ball handler for this offense.
We did see a little bit of it last year because you did have Paul George and you did have Dennis Schroeder out there to at least ball handle a little bit and create a little bit when Russ didn't have the ball. And the most catch and shoot threes that he had in his career, at least from when it was been tracking since 2013, 2014, the frequency that he was taking, 2.3 attempts last year, was the most that he had last year. But it was at 31%, which was lowest. The highest it's ever been was 2014, 2015, where he was at 5.4 frequency for his three-point percentage, 1.1 attempts per game, so pretty much one less per game throughout that whole season. And he was at 38.7. But outside of that, that was pretty much an anomaly. He's been around 34, 33, 31, even 29 one year. So it's really, there's no really substantial what can he do as an off-ball creator. And we've seen multiple times where he's just standing around and not moving. But is that just because he's been gassed so much because of the amount of load that he's had?
Yep.
The amount of usage that he's had to sustain.
Got to manage
in OKC.
That load too.
Jesus
Don't want to get too big.
Christ.
No,
because assholes.
When I mentioned off ball run around, I'm continuing. When I mentioned off ball run around, you're not going to get a JJ Redick level of effort on offense because JJ Redick doesn't play defense. You brought in Russell Westbrook because he can be a two-way player if he has the energy. If not, you're going to get a very strong offensive player and someone on defense who can pick and choose his moments, but he's going to get caught flat-footed a number of times throughout the game. So I think it's a gamble, if you expect him to try to be something off-ball more than what his skill set says he can be right now. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's going to be sketchy.
I'm just going to throw out there sporadically maybe we shouldn't expect too much from him.
Really?
Because
want lower expectations?
Well, the reason why is we know this is James Harden's team. Just as long as, in my mind, he's better than what Chris Paul was.
Which I think he's going to be.
And I know that that's a low bar.
Yeah.
And no disrespect to Chris Paul, but it's kind of a low bar to exceed because of the injuries that Chris Paul had. Russ doesn't have to go out there and light the world on fire. He just has to, when Dave was saying, pick his spots. Oh, Harden's having an off night. Let me pick it up. I can be the guy this night. And, the give and take between him and Harden to where if he supports Harden better than CP3 did, this team could go far.
And that's the thing is, when you're the way you're talking about it, I agree with that. But I still struggle to be his efficiency will go up. Because naturally you think he's going to be taking on a lighter usage. He's going to be letting James Harden do most of the work. Or at least, step up when James Harden isn't.
He's not the guy that everyone just turns and looks to.
He's going to have less shots, and hopefully those are going to be better shots. And you think that his efficiency is going to go up, but we haven't seen that. We just don't know if he's a good shooter.
We just might not be good at it.
So, but to help that, I do think that in ways, I think we're actually going to see him be used more than Chris Paul. And that's A, because he's going to be more available, but also the player that he is. And James Harden has been gassed every time they've gone into the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Well, this team needs to hit at some point. This is what Daryl Morey feels like he needs to be doing. I mean, it feels like he's going to go crazy if they don't. Mm-hmm. And Russell Westbrook is so dangerous with the ball. We know this. We know how much ferocity he attacks the bucket with, and we know how good he is at passing. We know how good he is at finding the open guy, and we know how good he is at just beating his guy, creating that step, and being able to create offense in some way.
Yeah.
We know that he's not good with the ball not in his hands. So why not give him the ball a ton, right? Yep. And yes, you might be wondering, well, what is James Harden going to do? The thing that I really like for this is that, you could still use him in deadly moments and isolate his isolations where you could take it down a little bit, but make them more important and make them more dangerous. And, hey, if he is going to lane, maybe he gets more fouls called, and maybe they're better foul calls, right? Maybe he's getting, these calls, these clutch calls later in games. But what I do like to see is his off-ball shooting is insane. Yeah. James Harden's a great off-ball shooter.
Oh, yeah.
And last year he was shooting 41% from three on catch and shoots, and that was with Chris Paul, but then he was at 36.7. I do wonder, if he does have 39.5 the year before as well, if he does have a passer that is the caliber of Russ in 2015, 2016, he was at 41% too. If he does have an off-ball pass, or if he does have a passer like Russ, and he can play off-ball, how dangerous can James Harden be? And that's why I think his scoring is going to be above 30 points per game. Is yes, you're adding a guy who Russ, has typically averaged over 20 points per game throughout his career, but James Harden is such a great scorer, and yes, he's great at driving and creating his own scoring as well, and he's the best at going to the free throw line.
Yes, he is.
But if you're able to add that other level to James Harden's game, then how dangerous can he be when he does have a full head of steam? And hey, you need to win a game like that where you need to play ISO heavy James Harden ball. What if you then just give it to him and he's fully fresh and he's fully healthy? He doesn't have to do that for all 82 games. I think that he could be extremely efficient. And I don't think it's going to help Russ this much, the move to Houston, but I think it's going to help James Harden more.
Interesting. Yeah, I think offensively, you're right. Harden is going to benefit a lot from this. My big thing looking at that team's play style, though, is adding in Russell Westbrook unlocks their fast break game ridiculously well, because one of the big things for him, and I wonder if D'Antoni's going to take this from OKC, Dan Antoni.
D'Antoni, yeah.
Dan Antoni.
D'Antoni.
That Dan Antoni guy. Will be the whole emphasis on the primary ball handler, Russell Westbrook, getting either the rebound or quick touch pass off the rebound to get that offense rolling, because they were not exactly a quick offense last year, and I'd be very curious to see what would happen if Russ gets to play up-tempo with them and what that happens, because once he gets going, head of steam, he's bowling a chance shot. You try to stop him coming when he's been sprinting up to half court, he can just fucking take one step, jab left, and then he's just at the hoop already. He is quick, and I think a lot of people still don't understand how quick he moves with the ball in his hands. I love the idea of that team adding in just a small twist of what OKC did to really help Russell Westbrook unlock himself.
Mm-hmm. Dude.
No, the thing that I didn't know you were going to come to me.
Usually it goes like Dave and Ricky.
Well,
it's usually the dynamic.
The thing that I was waiting to throw out there, and I was waiting for a spot to kind of connect it.
Now's your time.
Is Jerry West was asked about Harden and Westbrook, and he said they're basketball players. When you have basketball players like them, they're not just limited in one thing. They can do so many things. They'll make it work. And I think that a lot of people, myself included, are going to have questions about this Rockets team. Can they take these two, I kind of want to say egos, more so with Westbrook than Harden. Can they take them, put them together, make them work? Where James Harden has been the guy for the Rockets for the past couple of years. Last 3 years, Russ has been the head of the OKC Thunder. Can they come together kind of like how Doc put it in the article I'm looking at from the Houston Chronicle, where it's like D-Wade and LeBron, where obviously somebody is going to have to give a little bit. In Miami, it was D-Wade. D-Wade gave so that LeBron could come here, and they won titles doing that. I mean, Chris Bosh gave the most, but I didn't expect Chris Bosh to be the leading scorer for that team anyways. But same thing here. Somebody's going to have to give. It's probably going to be Russ. But for this team to reach their goal, which is a championship, he's going to have to do that. And the expectation would be give enough to, yes, Harden's the main guy in this team, and supplement Harden so you guys can win games, and especially in the playoffs. If Harden gets gassed in games late, you got to be there to pick up the slack so this team can get over a team like the Nuggets, like the Warriors of yesteryear.
Like Wade and LeBron, they did have a prior relationship, Russell Westbrook and James Harden. I don't think that the ego thing is going to be that big. I don't think that, Russ has that big of an ego. I think that Russ is, is fashionable. I think that Russ is vocal, but I don't think he has that big of an ego. I mean, how many times have we heard him he hasn't had a chance to whine about not having the ball because he always has the fucking ball. But I don't think he would be upset if they're winning. And we really didn't hear him complain with KD,
He's like
right?
Bizarro Carmelo. Like, if he doesn't score X points and they still win the game, he's happy. Still a good guy in the locker room.
I don't think it's all about points. I think it's really just about wins for him.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's what I'm saying. Like, he's the opposite of Carmelo. Carmelo, the big knock. I forget who came out and was talking about on the jump. And like, it was like, if we, lost the game, but he scored 34, he got his. Like, he'd be okay in the locker room. Mm-hmm. But if he scored, 18 and we won the game, he'd be pouting at his locker. And it was like, all right, that's a character check right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think Russell Westbrook, that man pours his fucking heart out on the court, off the court. Like, he is so passionate about the game of basketball. I'd be surprised if he didn't, if he was asked to take that, like, slightly smaller role and be like, look, you need to understand what's best for this team in order to win games and to compete for a championship is for you to do these things and take a step back as far as you're concerned.
Yeah, and last year he had 26 games where he scored under 20 points, and they went 18-8 in those games. And I don't think we heard Russ bitching too much about, I wasn't scoring enough. Yeah. So I really do think that if he sees what's best for the Rockets team is to pass the ball and to at least just because I do think the biggest ego thing that he does have is not playing off ball and not being that efficient of a worker. Maybe being around an offensive mind like Mike D'Antoni will be able to change his thought process and not playing around Scott Brooks and Billy Donovan. If he's around a guy like D'Antoni, maybe that his mindset will change. But even if it doesn't, and he's like, well, I could still pass the ball to be effective, I think those egos will be absolutely fine. And I think that they're superstars for sure. But we've seen time and time again that egos really haven't been a thing in a very long time. When was the last time egos got in the way of teams?
Here's one thing that I've...
Shaq and Kobe?
Well...
Championship caliber teams or teams in general? Because, let's keep it championship.
Good teams. Good teams. Yeah. Like, when was the last time egos got in the way of good teams?
I mean, when everyone's getting paid, that helps.
I mean, I think the Caleb, LeBron, Kyrie thing...
That was probably...
But did it get in the way? They went to the finals.
Afterwards.
They went to the finals. They could have perhaps done more had Kyrie not demanded his way out of town.
But I'm talking about the actual season.
Oh, okay.
Right?
In season.
I don't think we didn't know that Kyrie stuff happened until it happened, and we're like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
True.
We were all taken aback by that. We didn't know that was happening. Like, it didn't really come out.
Well,
and it wasn't
the
really
team did a good
team.
job of kind of hiding it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a blow up that happened mid-season that affected a team. Really.
I don't think it's happened in a very long time.
Here's the thing I want to throw out is it weird that we're expecting Russ to be the one that is like, oh, you've got to fit? Because the thing I think of that Miami team when LeBron came in, who was the one that was like, hey, I'll take on the lesser load. It's D Wade. Hey, I'll take the step back because I've got LeBron. Same thing with the Warriors. KD comes in, and I know people are going to say, well, Ricky, LeBron was a better player than D Wade.
Well, that's what it is.
KD, better player than
Steph Curry.
Where Steph is like, fuck it. Like, I'll take the step back. We're winning games. That's easy. And that's where, you
Harden's
come in.
a better player.
If they're winning games, it's going to be fine. But at the same time, I kind of look at it and I go, usually when we see this high caliber player come in, it's a player that's already been there. That's like, hey, you know what? I'll take the step back. I'll be the one to kind of mesh here that you're coming in. And in this case, we're kind of expecting the new variable to come in and just jump on board with already what's being made here in Houston.
I think he realizes that. And your point is kind of fair because Steph was the guy and he was one of the most popular players in the league at the time.
Two-time MVP.
Same with D Wade.
One of the greatest shooters of all time. Yeah.
Same with D Wade too.
The
but
greatest.
I think it's pretty clear in all those situations who the better player was, and I think it's just the first time that it's been flipped where they've added a player at least to this caliber. Where the better player is still on the team. I don't know if we've had this in a bit where the super team. You can't really say Paul Pierce either. I'm just trying to think of super teams.
When Jimmy came to the Sixers?
Jimmy was better than all of them.
True. Good point.
Yeah, that's what I was like.
I mean, maybe Embiid.
Oh my God, yes.
Last year, you'd take Butler over Embiid.
Yes.
Really?
Embiid had better stats across the board, don't get me wrong. Like, from a statistical standpoint.
Yeah.
But what meant more to that team winning games was Jimmy Butler being there. He was a driving force for them.
But do you not
winning
think
games.
that he pushed them over the edge? I mean, I think he could be a catalyst, but do you think that he was, like, what makes him the better? Like, I'm curious about this. What do you think made him the better player, though?
I think the fact that he was a complete wing has more value than two-way wing has better value than a two-way center.
Okay.
And then I think on top of that, it's the fact that Jimmy is a veteran who has been in playoff situations in his career. He has the ability to close out games, which is not something that Joel Embiid had great success with, because Embiid, even to his own credit, talks about this. I cut a clip of him in the Rachel Nichols interview. He was going over like how late in games he had a bad tendency to dribble the ball and turn it over heavily. He wouldn't look for passes right away. He was just he wasn't in a great mindset. He didn't have a great plan for what would happen in those late game situations, and he really depended on someone like Jimmy Butler to come in and take the load, take the management, and he doesn't have to worry. Embiid was allowed to just play simple, and then Butler could manage very clutch situations, how to round out the entire fourth quarter of a game, where games are decided in the majority of these cases for that team. So I think it was just his overall impact on the team, I felt, was heavier than Joel Embiid, who understandably had a monster year and I mean, put up amazing numbers, but I think Jimmy Butler's impact on the team itself was higher.
And obviously Jimmy had to step up more in the playoffs just due to Joel's sickness.
As well as Ben Simmons' disappearance.
That's typical.
Yeah, I'm just tossing out there.
No, it's a fair argument. I haven't heard that.
It's close though. I think they'd be pretty close. And if you say Embiid's better, that's fine. I'm just what I value is different.
The only person I can think of where the team added a player that would be considered not
of Russ's value.
Yes.
Yeah.
Paul George when he was added to the Thunder. Because you think about this was it this past year? Yeah, this past year where it's like Russ is to me the better player, but Paul George had the season where he was in like the MVP voting and stuff.
At the time that the trade was made, yes, Russ was the better player, right? Yeah, because that was a year after his.
So last year you would vote Paul George as a better player than Russ. Yeah. Russ is falling in your rankings.
Sure,
okay,
100%.
Without a doubt, yeah. I mean, Russ
because like even Kawhi, like that was another easy one where Kawhi was obviously the better player because he's way better in rankings than Kyle Lowry.
Yeah. No, I agree. They flipped it. Basically, Russ was the better player going into the first year, and the second year, Paul George flipped the switch, basically. I think the whole playoff P thing kind of pushed the workout mode extra, and he gave it, like, everything last year. He had a fantastic year.
Until Dame met him.
Good call there.
Yeah,
I can't think of any other, like, instance like that. We're probably just missing like a huge blatant.
I'm absolutely sure.
I mean,
because Kawhi going to Toronto, Kawhi's obviously the best player on that team.
Blake going to the Pistons better than
that's
Andre
not even
Drummond.
a good team. We're talking about good teams.
I'm just thinking of like big star players that moved
recently.
When Chris Paul went to the Rockets, Harden was better.
I think that one was like Chris Paul's the aging veteran. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I think that was more age though.
Yeah. Because Chris Paul was a complete point guard.
Yeah.
That's still the argument.
Because they're the same age right now, Russ and Harden. Harden's a little bit younger.
Do you think with this Laker team, who's the one being the D Wade kind of a character? Is it
this one's
Anthony Davis or LeBron?
More interesting because we haven't seen a big go with a guy like this, because we haven't seen bigs like in a very long time be this valuable and then also be moved in trades.
Yep.
The last time it happened was DeMarcus Cousins, but DeMarcus Cousins went to a team with another big. So like I don't think we've had that opportunity to see this type play out, because they might not need to take a step back because they just might both elevate each other's games. So that one's a little bit different where you have a guy playing the 1 and a guy playing the 5, and that's inherently just going to make each other better because you have the pick and roll element where both guys can succeed.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't on that coverage.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So, shit. Yeah. I think that going back to the Rockets though, I think that Russ is going to be taking the step back because Harden's a better player right now, and he is the guy in Houston. Where I think that you can make the argument that if at the time with Miami, that was still Wade's team. Everybody still loved Wade without a doubt, but LeBron was untouchable at that point. So, and I think KD was the same point there too. So,
yeah.
Anyways,
best backcourt in the NBA. I mean, they got Dame and CJ beat.
Dame's better than Russ, and Harden's better than CJ. So it's really who's better, CJ or Russ.
I mean, really?
What?
It's Russ. That's not even close.
I'm just laying
the
out
level
that
of difference between Dame and Russ versus Harden and CJ.
I'm just laying the
volumes different on that 2-guard position. I know we talked about which tandem of superstars, but I'm just, as far as a backcourt's concerned, like I think the Blazers are the second best backcourt in the NBA. And I hesitate to say that out loud.
Well, I mean,
I'm not 100% in on that.
I got to go with our rankings. It's got to be Conley and Don Mitch, right?
That one's interesting.
The Jazz are number one.
The Warriors.
They were number one team. They weren't ranked the highest.
Well, I'm just saying
for those positions.
That's a pretty good backcourt.
And then you have the Warriors with D'Lo and Steph Curry.
Yeah.
And then when Clay gets back,
I don't think they're up there. I don't know.
But Clay won't be in the backcourt. It would be D'Lo
Clay
and
be
Steph.
at the 3. Yeah.
True. He was only at the 2.
I would not take. Because we don't know how Steph and D'Lo are going to play together.
Yeah,
I would not put them there. I think it's more easier to see how Russ and James will play together.
Yep. I'm looking around the league, and I don't see
we had Dame at 2.
Punch.
We had Dame at 2, and we had Russ at 3.
Yeah.
Or Russ at 4, actually. We had Dame at 2, Russ at 4. And then for shooting guard, we had Harden at 1, CJ at 4. I'd probably say Houston, not based off those rankings, but I would just say
both will struggle with some defense. Both guys on the offensive end can create though. So yeah.
Where does Chris Dunn and Zach LaVine rank in this?
Number 2.
Top 10?
Real far down. Real far down.
No, really.
Somewhere
it's
right.
Kobe White and Zach LaVine, top 10.
Somewhere right in front of the Knicks.
Yeah. All right. Let's go in final words on this. With the expectations that we talked about Russ as a solo player, where do you think that this will push the Rockets to? What's their ceiling for you, Ricky? Dave, you're not going to have the same question.
Western
I already gave my answer.
Western Conference Finals is their ceiling. Okay. I don't think they go to the finals. There's too much talent in that West.
And Dave, if they watch the hot take, if not, go back to last week.
Absolutely.
They know that you think that they could be the best team in the Western Conference, that you think that they can go to the finals.
Yep.
What is this point that could be the downturn of this team? What's the
Achilles heel?
The Achilles heel of this. Is it Russ and James, or is it something else that's not them?
The lack of depth is the obvious one that I think a lot of people are going to focus in on. But in all honesty, I would have a fear of if this team struggles defensively, because again, they've lost some coaching staff that was helping them. And if they struggle defensively like they did to start last season, I wouldn't be surprised to see people pointing fingers at Russell Westbrook and being like, we'll see. Just like Melo had it happen, where Melo basically got, shunned off the team. I know there's a whole bunch of other shit going on with that, but just one of the points was they were losing games with Melo. Their defense was atrocious. I could see something similar where if they struggle out of the gates and the media and fans start to create this persona around Russell Westbrook is the reason we're not going to be able to win. Like if that starts to divide, I don't think it'll divide the locker room because, like you said, Russ and James are close. But I wouldn't be surprised if they struggled out of the gate and all that media shit got things going, and then we started hearing some shit about like maybe they will separate these two. Maybe they're not able to play together.
Do they have the ability to separate each other though? I don't think financially they'll have the options to.
I mean, we've said that in the past, and then shit always happens. Chris Paul was never supposed to get traded because his contract was the worst contract in the NBA.
That's true.
Andrew Wiggins never going to get traded because his contract's the worst contract. That one's being rumored to happen this year. So I think it's a matter of like anything's possible when you have other teams involved. But I could see that starting up if they falter out of the gates.
They're not going to overreact this year. These are two guys that are under contract until 2022, 2023. They come up at the same time.
This is the year to strike, though. There is no one in the West who has the top.
I think that's a next year conversation. I don't think they overreact like that if they struggle this year.
I just see this as the best opportunity since their last one when they won 60-plus games.
I agree with you that this is the year. If they're going to hit, this is the year.
Yeah. They have to pull out all the stops. Like this is the mortgage the future do anything you need to.
Because I think you have an upper edge over the Clippers, at least when it comes to your two stars, just because they've played together before. I don't know how much that means because it's been a while since that's happened.
Yeah.
I don't think you have an edge over the Clippers in general. Clearly not. But the Clippers will still, I mean, the West is so tough that they can get knocked out before you even have to meet them. So
yeah,
I think that their ceiling is NBA Finals. I think that their downfall won't be them clashing or media stuff because really with media stuff, if you're able to control it, it'll be fine. Like if you're able to say the right things, you can calm things out there. And we saw how bad of a start they got out to last year, and they were able to bounce back. So I think the biggest thing that could hurt them would be probably depth, but I think maybe even just starting lineup in general, because outside of Capella, outside of Harden, outside of Westbrook, I don't know if you have the guy, right?
Are you telling me the 35-year-old PJ Tucker doesn't still got it in the tank?
I think he's
Joe
good
Green
for what
off the
he
couch?
is. I think he's good for what he is, but I don't think you have like the guy to just put you over the top. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think you have that glue guy. You know, if glue guys even exist anymore, I don't think you have that Robert Horry, right? I don't think you have that.
Such a scumbag.
I don't think who
Robert Horry. Everyone hates Robert Horry. Yeah.
Really? For what?
Listen to some shit from some ex-players. He is not well loved.
Well, shit. Well, be the glue guy like Robert Horry. Let's get Ron Artest. Ron Artest was a classic glue guy.
He absolutely was.
Glue guy.
Yep.
All right, just be a glue guy. Where's the glue guys at? Where's the Tony Kukoc, right? Let's just go back to the Bulls, right? Where's the glue guy? Let's get a glue guy in here in Houston.
I mean, it's probably Thabo. He was fantastic in years past. I love him to death.
Former Bull.
Can't go wrong.
Why not just get D Rose?
No. They couldn't afford D Rose.
Well,
they literally couldn't afford him.
Anyways, those are our final thoughts about the Rockets. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think the expectations for Russell Westbrook should be for this year, 2019-2020? What do you think is going to happen? Well, let us know down in the comments below.